This short video summarizes our report, Stigma is More Than Just One Thing. The video is a pilot, so please give us some feedback on how it can work better and be more useful for you. The report that we've written is the first of four, and the report focuses on explaining some core ideas to help understand stigma and discrimination as it relates to homelessness. And the reports come out of our partnerships in South London. The idea for this report came from the 999 Club in Lewisham, who've worked really closely with us, the King's College London team, in developing and explaining these ideas. So over the next few minutes, we're going to introduce a few ideas which we think are really important. But if there's one thing we really want you to remember, it's the importance of asking this question. Is this stigma? So it's a question that we in the research team are always asking, and we know that lots of other people are also asking it, because they ask us and each other all the time. They might see something or hear something that isn't quite right, that is a problem, but they aren't quite sure if it's stigma. And in our reports, we make clear that answering this question often isn't easy. Sometimes stigma is obvious, but often stigma is hidden, it's subtle, it's hard to identify or really tell apart from other problems. And we have really struggled at times to put names to things. And this is one of the reasons we wrote this report, to put down the lessons from the process we have had. So this question, is this stigma? We believe it's the right question to ask, and stigma has many forms, and we hope this report will help you answer that yourselves. The first thing we do in the report is explain what we mean by the idea of stigma, and we give some history for it. But we use the term stigma to mean a process where some people, conditions, or places are marked out as undesirable and not worthy of respect. Calling it a process is really important, because a stigma is not a fixed or natural thing that belongs to the person who is stigmatized, but it's actually an ongoing social process between people and across society. And focusing on that process helps us see how what or who is stigmatized depends on social trends and inequalities, and isn't actually about the people stigmatized. The focus of the report is then on introducing some specific ideas. And we've grouped those into four ways that stigma works in terms of how stigma appears and how it manifests. There's 4 videos on their way to explain each of these in depth. The 999 Club and the King's College London team will be making those, and we'll update on those in separate videos. Stigmatized identities are not separate, they're often connected. So homelessness can be stigmatized. So too, in different ways, age, gender, sexuality, race and ethnicity, trans cis status, neurodiversity, disability, immigration status, drug use, and health conditions. Each of those experiences and identities can also be stigmatized with specific stereotypes and patterns of discrimination and status loss. And the connections or intersections of each of those different forms of stigma can bring their own unique experiences. Now, thinking in that way is essential to understand how stigma, discrimination, and status loss have different consequences for different groups. And this has been really important for our research. So as an example, in a survey we ran, we asked people if they had experienced unfair treatment. And then we asked them, if you have experienced unfair treatment, which experiences and identities were involved? Trying to understand what else beyond homelessness and the stigma attached to that was at play. And the results were really significant. Some people said just one identity, so commonly being homelessness, was involved. But the vast majority of people said that more than one identity that could be stigmatized was involved. So there are lots of different identities and experiences that can be stigmatized, and we need to think about how they intersect and combine. Power is central to stigma, discrimination, and status loss. It takes power to stigmatize. Lots of groups might hold negative ideas about other groups, but for those ideas, those stereotypes to have consequences in terms of widespread understanding, reducing status, and generating discrimination, takes power. And by power, we mean the capacity individuals or groups have to control or influence. And power can control or influence resources, other people, or the ideas that dominate debate. Power can also be used intentionally. Some people, though, might not even be aware or perhaps like to think about the power they have and how it might impact on others. Research is often focused on problems, on the negative things in people's lives, and that can be important to think about. Stigma and discrimination are clearly problems, and we need to understand them. But talking about stigma also risks painting a picture of those who experience stigma and discrimination as victims, as necessarily vulnerable, as lacking capacity. If we just focus on stigma, we just focus on the negative. We also need to think about the positive, where people are responding actively themselves, where there is recognition, where there is strength and joy. So those are also important ideas for when we think about stigma. So that's the end of this video. The report is available on our website. The link is there. And if you have any feedback, please email me, andrew.guys@kcl.ac.uk.